one of the things that Americans know about India is Mahatma Gandhi is this god, right? And there's he's one of the great men of the century. And you have fundamental disagreements with him. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because in America, nobody ever would say anything like that. So I'm curious to hear what
Yeah.
your position.
Well, I mean, I'm also reluctant to say things easily because, it's such a huge subject. So I have written this book, which is also available in the US, called The Doctor and the Saint. And it's about the debate between Gandhi and the great leader of Dalit people, formerly known as Untouchable, Dr. Ambedkar. And well, Gandhi's views on race, on caste, on the working class, and on women. I have written about it in this book, not by interpreting anything, but by quoting him from the beginning of his political career right up to the end. But I'll just, because I'm talking to an American audience primarily, I would say look at the time that he spent in South Africa. In South Africa, when Gandhi arrived there as an apprentice to an Indian lawyer, he when by the time he left, people were saying, "Oh, he people think he fought segregation." The big story in Attenborough's film is that he was thrown out of this whites only compartment in Peter Maritzburg, and that made him realize that he must fight for justice. There's a huge amount of falsehood in this version. So Gandhi's first victory in South Africa was to fight for a third entrance to be made to the Durban post office because he did not believe that Indians and Kafirs, as he referred to Black people, should share the same entrance. And if you read, he consistently fought for separate prisons for Indians, for separate food for Indians. He collaborated with the British in the Boer War against against the native Africans. He collaborated with them against the Zulus. And until 1913, which is when he left to come back to India, he consistently wrote against even the descriptions of the Indian, there were two kinds of Indians, the trader Indians and the working class, Indians who were working on the sugar plantations, who he constantly denigrated, calling them filthy and uncouth and low caste. But the upper caste Indians are part of the Aryan Brotherhood, of the Imperial Brotherhood. And when he left South Africa, he first went to England, where he was given the highest award for service to the empire, the Kaiser-e-Hind. And then he came to India. So he was a complicated man and in many ways a visionary man. So I'm not just saying, throw him out of the window, but I'm saying look at the nuance of what was going on. And then you look at the debate between him and Dr. Ambedkar. I think, it's a book which is obviously complex in terms of very rooted in the debates over here, but the South Africa part, of course, is about South Africa. But Gandhi, again in India, was known as somebody who campaigned against untouchability. But untouchability was the symbolic performance of something else, where caste, and there are like 4,000 different jatis, castes in India, each of them has a hereditary employment, an ancestral hereditary employment. And the lowest of the low are the people who are supposed to, clean shit and so on. And he wrote this piece called The Ideal Bhangi about how he thinks that the Brahmin should do the work of the Brahmin, the Bhangi should do the work of the Bhangi, but they should be treated equally. So there was never a challenge about entitlement. There was never a challenge to the idea of caste, but just of the performance. And that, of course, has complex reasons because at that time, the idea of imperialism was giving way to the idea of representative government. And everyone was involved with obsessed with numbers, trying to increase the population that they could count as homogeneous. Until that time, which is at the turn of the century, of the 19th and 20th century, you had millions of Dalits or untouchables converting to Christianity, to Sikhism, to Islam to escape the scourge of caste. But suddenly the numbers began to matter. So, how do you keep people in the Hindu fold, in the caste system, but, you know, as a to bolster the numbers in your constituency. So even the Hindu right was campaigning against untouchability at that time. So it's a little complex, the idea, I know, but that's what it is. But the period in South Africa, I do want African Americans to read about it. South Africans know about it, you know. But it's again, I'm not just. I think he was a brilliant man, and there was so much complication to all of this. But there's a lot of falsehood in the story that has been told, a lot of dishonesty, you know. And that film, which Attenborough made, which is, I think 99% of the world just thinks about that film and thinks they know Gandhi. I always wanted them to say this is a work of fiction, you know. And
Mm.
Dr. Ambedkar doesn't even appear in that film, although he was Gandhi's greatest challenger, morally, intellectually, in every way, you know, a very sharp challenger in his time, on his terms, you know. But he doesn't appear in the film.